I knew when it was time to make a record, I wanted a real studio. Come back to the scene of the crime. The first session I ever worked in my life was in this room with Lester Flatt when I was 13 years old. I'll show you something that it looks really important to me. And Lester walked over to me and said, "Why don't you handle a kickoff on this one?" I went, "How do I handle a kickoff?" And there was an engineer named Al Pachuki. I went and said, "Excuse me, could you tell me, do I count it off?" He said, "Just get out there and do it." I grew up being a fan of bands, Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three, Merle Haggard and the Strangers. But there were no country bands being invented anymore, and the superlatives seemed to fit that. And we named ourselves after an ad at a local florist here in town. Emma's the superlative florist. And so, well, we're named after a flower shop, so the fabulous superlative sounded more famous. And the goal was to bring the bandstand to the recording studio every time we've done it. But Ralph Mooney is my all-time favorite human being. I hear Ralph Mooney in my head. So I wanted to create a horse race for steel guitar players because they're one culture that helped define and make this town great sonically. Well, it's about what bubbles up out of the heart. It was once said to me that, unless it comes overflowing from the heart, it's really not worth doing anymore. The first song of this record was Hangman, and it was written 4 days before Johnny Cash passed away. I composed it with him. I didn't have the heart to sing that song for a long time. And if you look at a song like that, Hard Working Man was a song that I really didn't know still exist, about feelings that existed inside me about my dad getting fired after 21 and a half years at a factory. Porter Wagner's grave came on the heels of, losing Porter. I Run to You is the subtotal of, 15 years with Connie Smith. And so every one of these songs came by way of a heartfelt incident. The whole record, I thought, I'm gonna throw away the rule book and go back to the original template of country music, the original blueprint concerning subject matter. And brand it as just one of those kind of, fugitive kind of songs. But I started writing it one afternoon on the way to the Grand Ole Opry. And I got out of the shower 3 times kept writing lines down. And when I walked in the dressing room, Kenny was the first person I saw. I said, "Come here." The way we work together is like a tapestry. I know what he's gonna play, he knows what I'm gonna play, and we stay out of each other's way, but it's a dance with Kenny. And Kenny and I had fun. And Mooney's drone, wow, 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 wow. It's like one of those old film noir things, it's hypnotic. Connie and I were coming down I-65 one day, and I said, "You got any paper and pencil?" We were in her car and I was driving. I turned off the radio, I said, "Write this down. Our home is like a prison where we're both serving time. I'm a stranger in your world now, and it's driving me out of my mind." It was just coming. I said, drifting apart, darling, we're drifting apart. Out of reach, out of heart, we're slowly drifting apart. And I looked over and she was going, I said, "It's not about you." Yeah. It's not about us.
We're slowly drifting apart.
My main electric guitar belonged to Clarence White, the great, guitarist for the Byrds who lost his life in '73. I played it on a lot of hits, a lot of records, but I never felt like, to the Clarence White fans who watch me out there, and that watch the guitar more than me, that I'd ever laid down a profound instrumental that says, this is Clarence's guitar. And Hummingbird is spelled HummingbyRD.
Well, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Mississippi Railroad Blues.
At the end of the day, of all the things I do as a creative spirit, I find myself with the mandolin, usually by myself, just doodling. And I guess that's home, the mandolin. And truly home is Mississippi. I really want to pound the pavement from my individualism, from being from Mississippi and the heritage which I step out from. And so it's a record about a train. I'm a mandolin player from Mississippi, and it just seemed like the final, kind of the final brushstroke on a portrait of a music and a culture that I love. It's kind of who I am for real and where I come from. And it was a simple way to say thank you very much, friends and neighbors.